Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to be zooming in on just one single building. But as you'll see, it's not just any building. We're exploring the living, breathing birthplace of American democracy itself, Independence Hall. Sitting right in the heart of Philadelphia, it's easily one of the most absolutely crucial historical landmarks in the United States, and we're going to unpack exactly why that is. But before we get totally bogged down in the heavy history, let me ask you something. Do you have a $100 bill in your wallet right now? Or, maybe you've seen one recently? It kind of seems like a strange question to kick off a historical explainer with, but I really want to create an immediate, tangible connection between your everyday life and a building that's, well, almost 300 years old. If you do happen to have that bill, flip it over. Look at the back. You are literally carrying a picture of Independence Hall right in your pocket. It is featured front and center on the back of the U.S. $100 bill. It's a pretty fun fact, right? But it makes total sense when you realize it's one of the most visited historic sites in all of America. So let's find out exactly how it earned that prime spot on our currency and, more importantly, in our history.
Okay, let's dive into this. Section 1. The Pennsylvania State House.
To make sense of all this, we're going to use this timeline as our sort of time machine today. We'll start way back at the beginning of its construction in 1732, travel right into the intense, fiery days of 1776, make a massive stop at the drafting of the Constitution in 1787, and finally arrive at its modern UNESCO designation in 1979. So here's the thing. This iconic structure wasn't originally built to host a revolution. Not at all. It took quite a while to build between 1732 and 1753, and actually, scratch that, it didn't even have the same name back then. It was just called the Pennsylvania State House. During the British colonial period, this was just a meeting place for the local colonial government. Very mundane, very administrative. Honestly, nobody laying those early bricks could have ever guessed the massive historical shockwaves that would eventually ripple out from those walls. Which brings us to Section 2, 1776, Declaring American Independence. All right, let's slow down for a second because the pace of our history is about to shift, and things get intensely dramatic right here. 1776. Try to just picture the walls of this building acting as a silent witness to a revolution that's basically boiling over. The stakes for the guys walking through those doors? Literally life or death. So, what was actually happening in that room? Well, delegates from all 13 American colonies crammed in together. They were locked in incredibly serious debates, urgently trying to figure out their future under British rule. The pressure in that room must have been completely suffocating. But ultimately, they made this monumental, point-of-no-return decision. They were going to break free from Great Britain. And that leads us to the huge climax of the story. July 4, 1776. On this exact date, right inside that exact building, the United States Declaration of Independence was officially adopted. This piece of paper boldly announced to the entire world that the American colonies were free and independent. The whole course of human history shifted in that one room. Now on to Section 3, 1787, Drafting the Constitution. So, independence is declared. Boom, done, right? Well, no, the story of Independence Hall doesn't stop there. Let's move to 1787 and see how this builds. A decade later, the tension is totally different. It's no longer about, tearing down a king. And now it's about the incredibly daunting, heavy task of building a brand new government from scratch. Delegates actually returned to Independence Hall for what we now call the Constitutional Convention. And their job? Oh, just to figure out the entire functioning structure of the United States government. No big deal, right? Over months of grueling meetings, they debated, compromised, and successfully drafted the United States Constitution. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the incredible contrast. On one hand, in 1776, you've got the Declaration of Independence, this bold, rebellious act of breaking away. On the other hand, just 11 years later, in 1787, you have the Constitution, the meticulous, structured act of actually building a republic. It's wild to think that two distinct, world-changing achievements were born in the exact same room. Section 4,
Enduring symbols of freedom.
Okay, now that we've got the history down, let's look at the legacy left behind. And honestly, you just can't talk about the legacy of Independence Hall without bringing up the Liberty Bell. This legendary bell was actually originally housed right up in the building's own bell tower. Today, it's displayed right nearby, and it stands as a massive symbol of freedom and liberty. It's not just an old, cracked piece of metal. It's a physical reminder of the ideas born inside those brick walls. Independence Hall itself stands today as a profound symbol of freedom, democracy, and self-government. Since the nation's two most critical documents were hashed out and adopted there, it is hands down considered the birthplace of the United States. And those crazy, radical ideas of self-government they established, yeah, those still matter immensely to every single one of us today.
Finally, Section 5, a global historical legacy.
Let's pull the camera back a bit and expand our narrative. How did one local building in Philadelphia get so famous all over the world? Let's bring our time machine all the way up to 1979. This is a huge modern milestone for the building. In 1979, Independence Hall got officially designated as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Why? Because the globe recognized its historical significance. The ideas debated in that room didn't just stay in Pennsylvania. They proved to the whole world that a government could genuinely be created by the people. That legacy is exactly why it pulls in millions of visitors from all corners of the globe every single year. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you with a question to chew on. Independence Hall provided the foundation in 1776 and 1787, but how are we continuing to build upon it today? Because the story of democracy didn't end when they walked out of that room. It's a living, ongoing project. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today. I hope this history leaves you thinking deeply about your own role in that ongoing story. Keep learning, keep questioning, and I'll see you on the next explainer.